and welcome to this wintry special edition of Issues and Insights. I'm Gina Ryan, Director of HCEC-TV, and today I've got some individuals that really help those out there during the winter time when they don't feel so well. Joining us today are the president owner of Apothecare Pharmacy, Gary Ham, and his other pharmacist, Kelly, and then Karen is going to discuss the marketing aspect of it. We're going to talk a lot about what role the pharmacy has, the immunizations that are needed, what people need to know about, and also about pharmacies are one of those things that a lot of people are thinking, I'm going to move away from pharmacies. But pharmacies are your connection to your health. It's that one-on-one connection, and you develop that relationship, and you can't do that when you're using a computer online. So that's one thing that sets pharmacies apart from anything else. So Gary, talk a little bit about how Apothecare got started.
Okay, well, we opened the company in 1998, and we've been in business over 20 years.
Oh, it's 20th anniversary.
Yeah, it was just last year. And really how we got started, I've got a real diverse background in pharmacy. I've worked for chains, hospital, a mental hospital, pharmacies and grocery stores. So I have a real diverse background. And really, at the time we went in business, I was working for a big chain pharmacy, and I just didn't like the direction the profession was going with them. I kind of felt like, I use the term fast food pharmacy, and I thought we wanted to do more personal care, kind of have a little bit more control. I mean, when we worked for them, I think Kelly worked also for a big chain, they kind of dictated what you could do, what you couldn't do, and we wanted more freedom to do more stuff and be more professional. So my wife and I decided we would just stick our neck out and go in business, and we opened, I didn't want to do a great big drugstore, so we just decided to open Apothecary, and apothecaries mainly carry medicine, and then instead of the full line out front, we just carry like the cough syrups and aspirins and that type of thing. So that was kind of, how we got started. And
where was your first location?
Our first location was in E-Town Health Center, which is on Woodland Drive, 1239 Woodland Drive.
Still there today.
And it's still there today, still open. It's still our busiest store.
Right.
It's amazing. It's kind of hidden and it's in a clinic, but it's still one of our busiest store. So.
And how many do you have now?
We actually have grown to 5 locations. And when we went in business, that was really not the intent. When I was in pharmacy school, I did eventually want to go in business for myself. I didn't know if that would happen or not because just like I said, the chains were kind of dominating the business and everything. But when we opened the other store, I tell people when we opened that store, that was probably going to be it. But as time went by, other opportunities arose, and I tell people we were just in a position to take advantage of the opportunities.
Well, and it's a growing community.
Yeah.
So you know where the need is.
Yeah, and really Hardin County has been really good to us and the people. I give our consumers credit. A lot of people say, how do you make an independent pharmacy with all the competition? And I said, well, consumers are more educated and smarter than sometimes the big corporations give them credit for. And so fortunately, they do appreciate our service and things like that. So.
Well, I think that's amazing, and it is a small town, huge story. The corporation that you've grown now. It's just really a great partner. Kelly, why did you become a pharmacist?
Well, it's actually really interesting. I started out as a pharmacy technician. So I was going to school at University of Kentucky, finishing my bachelor's degree. And I really just wanted to get into the medical field, and I thought, becoming a technician and learning the medications would be that first step. And honestly, I never considered becoming a pharmacist, but my experience with my patients there just it just gave me the desire to do that and help them in the best way possible. And it really helped me understand the effect that pharmacists can have on the community and their patients. And we really are one of the most accessible healthcare providers in the community. So I went on to University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy and graduated. I've been a pharmacist for about 5 or 6 years, and it's been an honor to come back and work for Gary at Apothecare. Elizabethtown's my home. It's where my heart is, and so it feels good to serve the community that I was raised in.
Which school did you graduate from?
I graduated from Central Hardin.
Go Bruins.
Yeah.
Great story there. Tell us a little bit about your story, Kathy. Tell us about how you got started in marketing and what a marketing person does.
I got started in marketing here with Apothecare. I had worked at several chain pharmacies, was not happy, wanted to be a little more involved with the patients, wanted to know people's names, not just a number. And Gary gave me an opportunity to do that because I love people. So that's how this position became to be.
You know, the role of the pharmacist, Gary, has really evolved almost as, if not more important, in regards to your medicine and your physician. You do have a close relationship. Why is that important, and how has that evolved through the years?
That's a good question. You know, I graduated from the University of Kentucky in 1978, and I never imagined the profession would advance like it has. I attribute that to like just pharmacists being really involved with their communities and politically active, but we're going to talk about immunizations later. That's one of the things that I never imagined that pharmacists would start giving immunizations. It never entered my mind. So back in 2003 or 2004, they passed a law in Kentucky, and a lot of other states did too, that pharmacists could start giving immunizations. I was in the first class that went back and got recertified to give immunizations. Even though we were trained to do it, the law wanted to make sure the pharmacists, were competent, so we had to go back and get retrained and recertified. I was in the first class at UK that did that, and we started giving, that year, flu shots. And we really started doing it I just thought it would help the community, and we would be more accessible.
Right, accessible is the key word.
Yeah, and it would give us a more professional image, but it's really evolved into just like we just give so many vaccines, which we'll discuss later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that was the intent of the law, is that they looked at some of the flu outbreaks, and they had plenty of flu vaccine, but a lot of people never got vaccinated just because of accessibility.
Right.
Now, we don't, there are a lot of, we don't want to keep anyone, we want people to get immunized. So if they go to their doctor or immediate care center or the hospital or wherever, that's fine. But pharmacy is very accessible. And that's one of the reasons they passed the law, is because of accessibility, just like you said. But one of the surprising things is I just read a study that last year, pharmacies gave more vaccinations than anyone else.
Oh, wow.
So is that just amazing?
It is, it is.
And so that's evolved into, I thought we would just give flu vaccines. Well, then the pneumonia shots came out, and there's actually 2 of those. So we started giving the pneumonia shots. And then they started wanting people to get the whooping cough or Tdap vaccine when there was a pregnancy in the family. Especially the grandparents and the parents, they feel like the vaccine wears off after several years. And then we had this hepatitis A outbreak, and we've given, this is amazing, I just got to tell you this statistic, we've given over 1,000 at Kelly's store alone.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Hepatitis A vaccines.
Gary, you mentioned immunizations, so let's go ahead and dive into that. It's confusing for young parents or parents at first. What about with infants and young children? What are some of those things that parents need to be aware of, and where do you feel that those immunizations need to be taken?
Well, when you're dealing with children, especially young children, they really should have a pediatrician and follow their pediatrician's recommendations. I mean, the CDC has a guideline of recommended vaccinations, and so at that age, they really need a pediatrician and to go that route. Where pharmacy would come in younger children is the flu vaccine, and we can give flu vaccine to children 9 years and older. What we have happen some years is, there again, accessibility. I've had pediatricians call me and say, well, we've run out of flu vaccine. Gary, do you have any, or does your company have any? And we're able to help them out. Another vaccine that's available that's been used a lot in pediatricians is the flu mist, and it's a nasal vaccine. Now, it was taken off the market last year, but they've come back out with it this year. And a couple of things about that. It's like if someone's scared of shots, you can even use it in adults. I think you can use it up to age 49. Mm-hmm. We think part of the problem was the technique of administering it, so it is a little tricky because it's absorbed in the nose or the nasal passages. So you want to blow your nose, and then you have to lean your head back and then use it and hold it there for a minute so it's absorbed well. One of the issues with it was they found out was that, I don't want to get too technical, but it was the H1N1 is one of the more common flu strains, mm-hmm. and it wasn't absorbed well out of the flu mist, and they've gotten that taken care of. So the flu mist this year is back on the market. It probably would work well. A lot of the American Pediatric Association has not endorsed it this year. Okay. They still recommend a shot. But I think once the information gets out and they kind of look at it again, it'll be available. But there again, just as far as the flu, the pharmacy's probably just a backup for pediatricians for the flu shots. Yeah.
Kelly, what do you do to take that edge off of somebody that hates shots?
So I really just try to talk to them and keep them at ease. I've given many vaccines. Obviously, we've talked about thousands. Yeah. So I really try to keep them comfortable. If it's a child, just make sure I talk about things that they're interested in to get their mind off what's going on at the time. My technique, I try to make it as simple and pain-free as possible. So I'm really concerned about making that a better experience for them. Obviously, no one enjoys getting vaccines, but it's an important part of our health.
Now, I've heard the wives' tale, or whatever it is, but even though you're getting the flu shot, you can still get the flu, correct? Because of different types of flu?
You can, and basically, how the flu shot is made is, you hear all these Hong Kong strains and stuff like that. It starts out in the Middle East, and they kind of look at what's going around where the flu starts each year, and it kind of goes around the globe. So they decide what strains they're going to make in the vaccine each year. Okay. So each year, the strains probably change, but like the H1N1 has been in the vaccine for more than 1 year. So some years the strains repeat themselves, but there are different strains that they do each year. So this year, for years we only had the trivalent vaccine, which only had 3 strands in it. So now they have a quadrivalent, and that's about all we've given this year, okay. And it has 4 strands, so you get better protection. So it boils down to is if the flu that's going around, if they've matched the vaccine to that strain. And last year they didn't really do a real good job, mm-hmm. but we've had a big outbreak the last 3 or 4 years. But this year they're doing a better job. They think the vaccine, they've matched it better. We still have so many people that don't want to get vaccinated just because of what you're saying, the different flu myths. And I'll just talk about a couple of them. Some people don't like to get vaccinated because they're afraid of needles. Well, I can tell you the newer needles and stuff are so sharp. I've had mine, and like Kelly said, if you're just kind of take your mind off it and look the other way, I didn't even realize I was getting mine.
Right.
So
it's like a little pinch. That's it.
Yeah, they're just virtually painless,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is a lot of people are afraid of preservatives, and you hear about mercury and things like that. We have almost exclusively went to pre-filled syringes, which are preservative-free.
Wow.
So you don't have to worry about those preservatives anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's
awesome.
Another thing. Mm-hmm. Another thing I'd like to say, there's been, there are a lot of vaccines available now, and I understand, you know, a lot of parents, and there's been some talk about vaccines causing autism or different things. And, you know, I would just like to say there are a lot of vaccines out there, but the scientific research has not showed a link. And I would say, I would say this, you know, we used to hear when things would come out in diseases where there was no treatment for. I wish they had a vaccine for that.
Exactly.
And now we have a vaccine for it, and a lot of people are afraid to take them. But we have given thousands of vaccines, maybe tens of thousands, and we have never had a serious reaction or a hospitalization. The newer vaccines are made so well, they're preservative-free, the newer syringes are so sharp. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't get your vaccines. And especially the more common things, like you had mentioned what vaccines are important this time of year, the flu and the pneumonia.
Talk about the
Yeah.
pneumonia, because even with the pneumonia, can you get a different type of pneumonia?
You can. The vaccines mainly treat bacterial pneumonia,
Okay.
but that's the more serious type. But you still could get the viral. And what a lot of people don't realize, if they don't get the flu shot, the flu can lead to pneumonia.
Right.
So you kind of got a double jeopardy there. So getting your flu shot and then getting your pneumonia shot, and now there are 2 pneumonia shots. There's the Prevnar 13 and the Pneumovax 23. You get them a year apart. You should get the Prevnar first if you haven't gotten a pneumonia vaccine yet. Now, I will just say this, I practice what I preach. I get my flu shot every year. I've had both my pneumonia shots. I've had my Hep A shot. We'll talk about Hep A later. And then I've also had my shingles shot. Right. So, you know, we do believe in them, so.
When you mentioned shingles and Hep C, I mean the hepatitis shots and things, as an employee with the Hardin County Schools, they offered that availability.
Yes.
And so who should have those shots? I mean, you were encouraged to, but realistically, is it everybody that should have those, or is it something you need to take into consideration?
I think right now, it would actually depend on different factors. Now, I think everyone should get their pneumonia shot, I mean their flu shot and their pneumonia shots. The Hep A, Kentucky, we had some statistics here. The Hep A outbreak is really challenging
I was going
right
to
now.
say it is just viral. I mean, it's just not viral in terms of that, but just.
And hepatitis A is actually a very virulent virus. So it can stay on surfaces for about 3 days, and it's not killed by hand sanitizer. So anybody has a potential to be exposed. So whether we go to the grocery and touch something that has that virus on there and touch our mouth or our eyes, there's always that potential for exposure. If someone fixes our food at a restaurant that has hepatitis A, that's another potential for exposure. And hepatitis A can put you into liver failure. We obviously, we need our liver. We only have one. The vaccine is very effective. So getting those 2-dose series is the best thing you can do to protect ourselves. There's been over 2,000 cases in Kentucky alone and 14 deaths.
In Hardin County, there's been a large number, but not to the realm of like Jefferson County or something along that line.
And Lexington is having an outbreak right now. We just got a notice about a month ago that there was an outbreak in Lexington.
Why do you need the 2 shots, and how far apart are they to be used or to received for those 2, for the hepatitis C? The hepatitis A.
The hepatitis A, for people out there interested in getting it, is much like getting a flu shot. We've had very few side effects from it, other than most shots may give you a little pain or redness the next day. Take some Tylenol, ibuprofen. But it is a 2-shot series. Now the first shot's immunity, you still have immunity, but it only lasts about 6 months to a year. After 6 months, and it has to be after 6 months, they're very strict on that, you get your second shot, and that will last you a lifetime.
Oh wow, so once you do it, you don't have to get it again?
Once you get the 2-shot series, you're protected for a lifetime.
Oh wow.
Unless they do a study 20 years from now and find out it's wearing off, because that does happen. And you were asking who should get it. I would say if you live in Kentucky and eat fast food, you need to get it, because that's where all the outbreaks have occurred, they've linked them to a restaurant and employees where, like Kelly said, maybe employees aren't washing their hands, or the virus is sometimes hard to kill and it contaminates the food, especially salads and things like that. But just to kind of re-emphasize what Kelly said, we've had a national outbreak of hepatitis A. There's no really treatment for it other than supportive, so the only way to not get it is to get a vaccine and prevent it. So nationwide, we've had almost 8,000 cases, 4,000 hospitalizations, and over 70 deaths. And that's just up through, that's not current, that's just up till October. Wow. Kentucky, when you look at the numbers, we're like the #1 state.
Well,
so if there's been 8,000 outbreaks and we've had 2,000 of them,
right.
That's a fourth of them.
I think
yeah, so if you live in Kentucky, the major cities have been the worst, but we've had outbreaks pretty much everywhere in Kentucky. Yeah.
Your role in terms of marketing, what's available in terms of immunizations, do you just jump right into it and say, we are the place to get those?
Absolutely. I reach out and into the community, businesses, facilities. We take care of a lot of assisted living, factories, just about anywhere you can think of. I reach out to people and say, this is what we have to offer. We'll come to you. We're efficient. We're fun. We like to have a good time when we get there. This is a really good team to work with, and it is usually the three of us. Sometimes we have other pharmacists or our nurse that goes with us, but it's a good time. Everybody, we're fast, efficient, and I help them communicate. I do a lot of, coordinate, I should say. I do a lot of the paperwork, make for sure that the billing's done, and just get a list of people so that it is not an inconvenience to the company where we're going. Get them in and out quickly. They don't lose time at work.
Well, and I attest to that. Being an employee with Hardin County Schools, you all do a great job taking care of us.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot better, and we've got a great team here. And originally we just gave vaccines out of the stores, right. And we found that a lot of employees, a lot of businesses, employees, and like the schools, the vaccine rate there was not what
it should be.
It should be, and it was there again. It was accessibility. They couldn't get to the drugstore during, they would work and wouldn't have time to go to the doctor or to the drugstore and get their vaccine. So we started doing off-site vaccines, and I'm really proud of this team. We do a survey after we do a vaccination clinic off-site, and kind of look for ways to improve it and make sure that we're doing a good job. But it has really went over well. It's really surprised me. I would think we're probably one of the #1 pharmacy vaccinators in Hardin County. I don't know how to find that statistic out, but we give a lot of vaccines. And when we do go off-site, we're not just giving the flu. We'll do the flu, the pneumonia, the Hep A. We'll have people that want the Tdap. And so Kelly's really in charge of that. I'll have to give her credit. She might want to talk a little bit about it, but she kind of is in charge of the off-site vaccines, and I don't know, you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, like Gary said, we all lead busy lives, and it's really hard for us to get to the doctor's office or even the pharmacy. If you're not making a weekly trip to the pharmacy, sometimes we just don't think about getting our flu shot. So by doing these on-site clinics, we really want to make sure that we increase the immunization rates in the community. And first and foremost, that protects that particular person that gets that vaccine. So we're making sure that they have access to health care. But also, as far as the employer is concerned, it reduces absentee days, it reduces loss of productivity, and it can prevent that loss of money that can occur from people missing days from the flu. So I think it's important to note, the CDC actually reported there was about 17 million lost days of work due to the flu alone last year. So think about that. I mean, if you have a small company with less than 50 employees, how drastic that can be on your workflow, on your efficiency, on things that you have to get done on a daily basis. So we are really concerned about the people in the community. We want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to get vaccinated. And like Gary said, we'll bring additional vaccines to that site. So if they're missing their whooping cough, we can go ahead and do it then and get it taken care of, 2 for 1.
Should you load up vaccines back to back?
You can get multiple vaccines in one site. We obviously don't do too many at once, but we look at what's the utmost need for that particular person and what they're at risk for. So as we're doing these clinics, we work to make sure that they are protected, they know what they need. And a lot of times, people just aren't aware of what's needed and what they're at risk for. So we try to give them that education as well.
And many that do have insurance, that's one of the preventative things that's covered.
Yes, exactly. And if you've noticed healthcare, it's taking a shift towards wellness and preventive health.
Which is the better way to go.
Yeah, so years ago, right, you didn't get any healthcare unless you got sick. Right. It was kind of, so it's kind of backwards, really. Now there's vaccines available, and they're really pushing preventative healthcare. So if you get your vaccines, there's usually no charge. It's rare that people have to pay anything for a vaccine. Right. So that's really good. And I would just like to add, if anyone, there's still a lot of people out there that there's a lot of myths and wives' tales that they think about the flu vaccine. I would encourage them to come by one of our stores and talk to our pharmacist, or we even have a brochure on flu myths and facts, and read that. The government, the CDC, makes us give out what they call a vaccine information sheet. It's in layman's terms. They can read over that and at least do that and make an educated decision. Because if you don't get the flu vaccine and you get the flu, you're a carrier also. Right. You can take it home to your family. If you do get the flu, you shouldn't go to work. But and you can also be a carrier and not get the flu. A lot of people don't realize that. So that's one of the number one things when we're giving vaccines that I've noticed. There's a lot of people that still don't want to get the flu vaccine. And it's improved a lot. Like I said, it's preservative free. You don't even feel it. I've gotten it myself. I don't think there's any reason not to get it. It's available. There's plenty of supply. So.
Well, I want to thank you all first for coming in. It's been awesome. When I got my flu shot a few months ago, I said, we need to have you all on Issues and Insights to discuss the importance of immunizations and take that scare factor out of it. And also to thank you as a great community partner. And for those of you at home, Apothecare has become one of our sponsors here at HCEC-TV, and we love our sponsors, and we really appreciate that. Yeah. Our goal is always to educate and inform the community, and we like being community partners with individuals such as you and graduates. Yeah. Hardin County Schools, distinguished alumni here with Gary Ham, and Kelly went to Central Hardin High School. What about you?
Oh, I'm from Louisville.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. That's all right. Now you're Hardin County now. So thank you all again for joining us on this winter holiday edition of HCEC-TV. And again, remember, if you feel like you have any questions about any of the immunizations, go to one of the apothecaries in your area, and helpful people will be there to answer all your questions. For this edition of Issues and Insights, I'm Gina Ryan. Have happy holidays.